going on, guys? It's Tristan, and we're back with episode 2 of T Dog Tuesdays. We have Will again for this episode. If you want to give us anything that's been on your mind.
Well, it's finally 1 week until football's back, so it's been the longest. I mean, every year feels like the longest off season. We're almost back, so just bear with us just one more week.
Yep. For today's episode, we will be going over our NFL Week 1 winners predictions. So we'll be going through each matchup for the week and each giving our take on who we think is going to win. There might be some arguments for this one. There's a lot of matchups to go through. And then for our second topic, we're going to be going over what NFL rules that we have liked and disliked. That comment was proposed by Mr. Trent Bryant, who is one of my coworkers. And since it was the most liked comment, that's the topic we have for today. So, moving right into our week 1 predictions, we're going to start with the Thursday night game. And it's the Bills and Rams, if you want to take this one, Will.
So this is kind of an interesting game, because mostly the biggest X factor I think of the entire season is Matthew Stafford going to be good or bad because of the whole elbow injury. It's like some people are saying they're underselling it heavily. Some people are saying they're overselling it. He's going to be fine. And some people think they're underselling it so bad he might need Tommy John, who literally won't play again the rest of the season. So I don't really know how he's going to look, but just right off, gut feeling, I would say probably the Bills. I think that, everyone's saying it's their year. I don't really agree with that, but I think that they'll be good enough to win this game because I just feel like Stafford's very questionable. Their running back situation's questionable. Akers coming off a torn Achilles. Everyone's seen the charts of how running backs perform the year after a torn Achilles. It's very horrific every year. And even Akers looked bad last year when he came back in towards the end. And then obviously they have Darrell Henderson, but he's coming off of his own issues. And the defense, the Rams defense, I think will be almost just as good, but they lost Von Miller. And they signed Bobby Wagner, who I think it's a very overrated signing. I don't think Bobby Wagner is very good anymore. Everyone was obsessed with that. I don't think he's that good. The secondary, for the most part, for the Rams is still the same. I'm just gonna have to go Bills, just gut feeling on this one. I think that they'll come out strong. Everyone's, it's saying this is their year. I think they'll have a good season, and I think that they'll beat the Rams. I think the Rams will be caught a little off guard in this game because they're defending champs. Kind of a hard game to win. A lot of pressure. I think that the Bills will win this game.
All right, you're already wrong. First game of the season, it's got to be the Rams, defending Super Bowl champions. Like it's the Rams. They're crazy. Like I know the Bills are very good, but the Rams are just miles better. And here's why. Matthew Stafford made the Lions look good. When he's on a good team, aka the Rams, he's even better. Allen Robinson signing was amazing. Allen Robinson is going to thrive under Sean McVay's offense. Their defense only getting better. They're making so many signings, and they're just going to be a very good team again this year. They're going to beat the Bills. Honestly, think they're going to blow out the Bills by at least 14 points. I'm very heavy with that prediction.
Okay. I mean, I could go either way on this one. I don't think they're that much better than the Bills personally, but
they are. But moving on, we have the Saints at the Falcons. I'm going to go with the Saints. I think it's a very easy win for the Saints. I think they win by 3 touchdowns. Falcons, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Saints got Jameis Winston back. Jameis Winston, top 10 QB in the league when he's healthy.
So, okay, we're going to stop with your comment right there. So I would just like to put this into perspective here of how I was the only Jameis supporter when the Bucks had him because he's a Bucks player and a Bucks fan. And I got chirped every day from this individual right here on your screen currently every single day that he was awful, the worst quarterback he's ever seen. He thinks he's like literally the worst thing of all time. And then he goes to the Saints. I don't like the Saints. All of a sudden, Tristan likes Jameis Winston. All of a sudden, he's a top 10 quarterback. Yeah,
he's actually the Bucks didn't believe in Jameis Winston. Bucks only got good after Brady came because when Brady came, they're like, oh, we need to make our team good now to make Tom Brady look like a good QB.
Wait, we have to debunk this argument too because I've just got
It's
into
true.
this same conversation with somebody else the other day, and it was the exact same team, exactly the same, except for two players. Two players. You don't know which two players those were? Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield. Besides that, the team was exactly the same. Exactly the same. You had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. The offensive line was exactly the same besides Tristan Wirfs. They added Antonio Brown, but that was in the middle of the season, whatever. And then the defense exactly the same,
Rob
except for Winfield.
Gronkowski. They added Rob
Yeah, Gronk's
Gronkowski.
different. That's true. I forgot about that. So three different players, but it's the same team
Leonard
essentially.
Fournette. They added Leonard Fournette.
Four players.
Yep.
Okay, four
They
players.
tried when Brady
Yeah,
came
also,
to
to be
Tampa.
fair, and you can agree on this, Leonard Fournette did absolutely nothing until really late in the season in 2020. In fact, he literally didn't play. If you remember, we almost cut him because he had like attitude problems because we only played Ronald Jones. So Leonard Fournette wasn't even really an impact until the playoffs. And if you're just looking at a regular season standpoint, it was pretty much the exact same team. Pretty much the exact same team. Is
No,
that not wrong? How is that wrong?
the team had drive with Brady. They didn't believe in Jameis Winston because the coaches didn't want to believe in Jameis Winston. And if your coaches don't want you to believe, if the coaches don't believe in you, then your whole team's not going to believe in you. And look what he did with the Saints. He went 5-2 before getting injured.
Okay, so I mean, I'm just not going to get into that debacle of a point you just made because he was believed in, obviously, when he was the quarterback. But then after he threw 30 picks, now they no longer believed in him, and then they got rid of him. Like,
Wasn't his fault. What do you have predictions for that game?
it wasn't his fault. Interesting. So, obviously, the Saints are going to win this game. I think the Falcons, in my opinion, are the worst team in the NFL. They have the worst starting quarterback, Marcus Mariota. They have the worst roster, and they're the Falcons. They're going to lose. They're going to lose by a lot to the Saints. Unfortunately, the Saints won't be winning the following week, though, when they play another team that's located right here.
All right. Moving on to the next 1 o'clock game, we have the Steelers and the Bengals. Will, what's your prediction for that one?
Bengals by a lot. I mean, the Steelers. I mean, who's going to be their starting quarterback? Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett? So either way, your options: Mitchell Trubisky or a rookie in his first ever game. I mean, it's going to be Bengals, and it's going to be Bengals by a lot.
Yeah, Bengals by a lot. No argument with you there. Mitchell Trubisky, although he's MVP, he is nowhere near MVP status, and they will not do anything on that offense. Moving on to the 49ers at the Bears. I have the Bears upsetting the 49ers. I think Justin Fields is going to catch the 49ers defense by surprise, and I think their offense is going to do a lot better than everyone's expecting, and the Bears are going to come out with a win at home field advantage.
So Justin Fields sucks, and he's going to suck this year. You can already have seen in the preseason that the bad traits he has are just still there. I mean, the same stuff that he was doing last year, holding on to the ball way too long, poor decision making, looking to run, not looking to throw too often. He does all that same crap, and he's been doing it all preseason. But then the media says it's the offensive line, when it's pretty much 80% his fault, 20% the offensive line's fault. They don't have a great offensive line, but a lot of it's on the quarterback too, and he's not doing them any favors by having these types of traits. And he's hasn't improved them at all because they've been exactly the same this entire preseason. So he's going to suck again this year. That's a fact. And the 49ers will beat the brakes off of them because the 49ers have a good coach, one of the best coaches in the league. They have one of the best overall rosters in the league, too. You can't forget that. They have a great defense. They have a great defense, great pass rush, great secondary, good linebackers. Their offense, it doesn't even matter if their offense has a ton of talent, which they do. They have very fast running backs, good offensive line. Deebo Samuel's a great receiver. Now, Trey Lance, obviously a wild card, but the Kyle Shanahan offense just makes their offense efficient and effective and good. They made it work with Garoppolo. He'll make it work with Trey Lance. The 49ers will beat the Bears by at least 14.
All right. Moving on to the Browns at the Panthers. What do we have for that one, Will?
So here's the thing. Obviously, like to an extent, I want to pull for Baker Mayfield because I hate the Browns. I hate Deshaun Watson. I hate the whole situation. So like I feel like naturally you're like I want to cheer for Baker in that game. I don't like Baker either, but I hate the Browns more because of the whole Deshaun Watson thing. But I hate the Panthers because they're one of our biggest rivals. So I'm gonna have to go Browns actually on this one. Um, actually, you know what? This is a tough game because the Browns are a significantly better football team than the Panthers are, but the Browns obviously don't have a starting quarterback. They're gonna have Jacoby Brissett. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to have to go Browns by a little bit because I think Baker is going to be like a little too emotional in the game and be like a little too noisy, and then just like do like some dumb stuff towards the end of the game and like I don't know. I could see it going either way, but I'm going to have to pick the Browns as of right now. They're just a more talented roster.
All right. I have the Panthers winning that game. I think with Christian McCaffrey healthy for once, the
Sure.
Panthers they're expected to be good with Christian McCaffrey on the field. Pair that with DJ Moore and Baker Mayfield. I think they'll be able to get through the Browns defense. Browns offense is questionable with Jacoby Brissett at QB. You touched on that a little. I just don't think their offensive weapons are going to be good enough to break through the Panthers' very underrated defense, in my opinion. They will run the ball through Nick Chubb. They will pass the ball through Kareem Hunt and Amari Cooper, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So I have the Panthers squeaking that win out.
Their offensive line too. You have to
The
realize the
offensive
Panthers.
line is very good as well, yes. I just really like the Panthers secondary. Honestly, I think they
Yeah,
made a lot of good moves last year, and I think they're ready for a big like up in their defense.
Stephon Gilmore left.
Did he?
Hey, he's on the Colts.
I actually didn't know that, to be honest. No.
So I'm
Um,
confident in the secondary now.
I still have the Panthers winning, to be honest. It's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game, to be honest. I think it's going to be like 17-14 or something like that.
Yeah, I could see it.
Moving on to the Eagles at the Lions. I have the Eagles winning, as much as I hate to say it. I feel like this game is going to show how the Eagles are going to be for the rest of the season. Is Jalen Hurts going to do good with AJ Brown? How is that offense going to work now that they have AJ Brown? Devonta Smith as well. I think they will put up a lot of points on the Lions because it's the Lions. But I'm excited to see what Aiden Hutchinson has to do for the Lions.
So the Eagles are going to win this game
Yeah.
by a lot because the Lions suck. And I'm so sick of the Lions because of Hard Knocks. They get all this good press. We've already been over my issues with the Lions and their head coach on the show before. But the Eagles are going to win by a lot. The Eagles have a good roster. They have a great secondary. They just traded for Gardner Johnson, right?
Yep.
They've got Darius Slay. They signed another good corner. I can't think of him at the moment, but
James
they signed another good
Bradbury,
one.
if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
and their defense, like I'm pretty confident their defense. They have a good pass rush. Fletcher Cox, I think they have a solid defense. Their quarterback situation's a little iffy, but they have good receivers now. Well, they have a good receiver, at least, and Devontae Smith is good too. So I think that they'll be good, and they will beat the Lions pretty handedly.
Okay. Moving on to Ravens at Jets. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to say that the Ravens demolished the Jets. If
Yeah,
Jets
I
had
mean,
Zach Wilson, maybe there's a fighting chance, but they don't.
I mean,
So yeah, Ravens by 30, honestly.
here's another thing too. Lamar's in that whole like contract dispute issue, and some people, he's acting as his own agent, and it's a fully guaranteed contract. Ravens won't give him a fully guaranteed contract, and then there's like a serious rumors that he just might skip the first game if he doesn't get a new contract by the time the season starts, which like I don't believe. But even if that was the case, I would still pick the Ravens because here's an interesting point that I read the other day. The Ravens have the best backup quarterback in the NFL by a lot. Brett Hundley. He is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. A lot of people that I've been following have been pounding the table for the Bucks to trade for this guy before the trade deadline and have him be our starting quarterback next year. And after doing kind of a lot of research on this, I wouldn't be super opposed to it. So the Ravens are going to win this by a lot. They have two quarterbacks better than the Jets even starting quarterback. So the Ravens are going to win by a lot. The Jets are the worst team, arguably the worst team in the NFL. The Falcons are worse, actually, in my opinion. But
All right, next matchup we have Patriots at Dolphins. What do you have for that, Will?
um, I'm going to go Dolphins. The Patriots never play well in Miami for some reason. Even when they had Brady, it was like almost like a jinx kind of thing. We had that like weird Hail Mary thing that they let up where Gronk was safety. I don't know if you probably remember that. Then
Miami Miracle.
yeah, weird stuff goes down when the Patriots play at Miami. Even when Miami was terrible, they had a hard time beating them. And when even when this goes back to even when Saban was the head coach of the Dolphins, they could never beat them in Miami. So I'm gonna have to go with the Dolphins on top of, and then now you add into the fact that the Dolphins are significantly better than the Patriots are, just in general, like not even including home field advantage or anything. So the Dolphins have a lot of talent. The Patriots have no talent. They have no offensive coordinator. Every single day, you're having more reports of how their offense looks awful. Mac Jones is frustrated because there's no continuity, right? There's no real coaching. It's not good. So I think the Dolphins are going to handedly win this game by a lot.
I have the Dolphins winning as well. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think it's going to be like a 10-point game for the Dolphins. I'm excited to see how Tyreek does in that. Tyreek Hill does in that. See if the Tua connection is
Not like
good.
Tyreek
Probably won't
Hill.
be good, but I'm just excited to see what goes down with that. Moving on to the Jags at the Commanders, if you want to take that one as well, Will.
Well, I'm probably just gonna have to go with Commanders because they have a well coached defense. Carson Wentz is not great, but he's an established quarterback in this league in terms of like he's been around. You know, um, decent running back Antonio Gibson. I know they lost Brian Robinson because of the shooting incident. I think that the Commanders overall have an have a better roster than the Jaguars, so I'm just going to go with the Commanders right off the bat because of that. Even though I think maybe towards the end of the season the Jaguars will be better than the Commanders, I think that right now I would pick the Commanders.
Yeah, this was one of the tougher games for me to decide. I don't really know how. I feel like the Jags winning is going to determine, or it's going to be based on if Trevor Lawrence does good. But I haven't seen Trevor Lawrence play good yet, so I'm going to have to go with the Commanders on this, just off of that. Um, I don't really know much about the Jags and what they have to offer, so I feel like they have to base it off of Trevor Lawrence. And since I haven't seen anything from him yet, I have to go with the Commanders with Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And then finally, the last 1 o'clock game, we have the Colts at the Texans. Texans are a bottom three team in the NFL. Should be a very easy win for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor is going to have 100+ yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm calling it now. It's gonna be like a bad game for the Texans.
It's going to be an absolute blowout. The Colts are going to win this game handily. Lovie Smith's the worst head coach in the NFL, arguably in NFL history, in my opinion. If you look at, besides his little stint with the Bears. So I think that it's not even going to be close. The Colts are going to win this game. The Falcons and the Texans are the ones that are tied for last place in the NFL, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the 425 games. The first game we have is the Raiders at the Chargers. I have the Raiders upsetting the Chargers as an away team. I really think Derek Carr and Devontae Adams are going to go off this game. Chargers defense is scary, but I think the Raiders are going to run through Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow is going to put in some work. Darren Waller is going to put in some work. Josh Jacobs is going to put in some work. I don't think Justin Herbert's going to have a good game that game. I feel like he's going to have a bad start and do poorly. So I have the Raiders winning that one.
I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I think that, the Chargers are going to be out for revenge because of that Week 17 game last year, if you remember, when, it could have ended in a tie and they both go to the playoffs. But that's not how it worked out. And so because of that, I'm going to have to go with, and the Chargers got a lot better on defense. I just think that the Chargers are going to be more, motivated, I think, to win this game because of, the history of how the season ended last year. And I think it's like kind of like their staple game. Like, this is the team that knocked us out of making the playoffs. Like, let's go beat them. So, and it's a big division game. So I'm gonna have to go to the Chargers because of that. I think Justin Herbert's better than Derek Carr. I think that the receiving core is equal on both teams with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and then on the Raiders you have Devontae, and you've got Darren Waller. I guess part of the Raiders are probably a little bit better, but still. And then the defense is not close. The Chargers have a better defense, so I'll have to go with the Chargers.
Do you think that one's going to be a high scoring game, or do you think it's going to be a lot closer than people think and low scoring?
Well, I think it's gonna be close, but I think it'll be probably high scoring.
High scoring? Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Packers at Vikings. What do you have for that one, Will?
I'm going Vikings here. We remember how Aaron Rodgers looked in week 1 of last year. And I understand that was like, I know that was kind of an anomaly, but it was a little cause for concern, and their team is worse this year. I mean, I personally think the Vikings are going to win the division. And they at least have a decent shot to. I don't know if they actually will, but it's. I mean, this is the Packers and the Vikings are by far the best two teams in the division. I think that with the new head coach, the new look offense, I think the Vikings might come out there and surprise some people. Their offense is going to maybe slice up, dissect Green Bay's defense, and then Rodgers without Devontae. I mean, I know there's like that stat that Packers fans keep showing how they're like 6-0 without Devontae Adams, and Rodgers' numbers are better. Okay, that's because it's like a one-game fill-in. Okay, now he's gonna have the whole season. Every team has a game plan against without having Devontae Adams. So I'm not really that concerned. And they picked that Christian Watson playing high school baby out of North Dakota State in the second round. But he's still kind of injured. You don't know how he's going to look, if he's going to be fully healthy in week 1, and that's supposed to be their wide receiver 1, quote unquote, or Alan Lazard, who's mid. Robert Tonyan, they said, it's questionable to play. So, I'm going to have to go with the Vikings on this. I think they're the more well-rounded team at this point.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that one. I think the Vikings are going to win that game as well. It's a home game for the Vikings. Packers, we do not know how that offense is going to play without Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like, is going to struggle that game finding his targets to throw to. And if this was like a middle of the season game, I feel like I'd have the Packers winning. So because they're going to get into a feel, they're going to get into a groove. That's just how it works with Aaron Rodgers. But for the first game of the season, I honestly have the Vikings coming out top of that win.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Giants at Titans. I feel like this is a very easy decision. It's going to be the Titans. Derrick Henry's going to run all over the Giants defense. There's no one who's going to stop him. Daniel Jones is still their QB. They're not going to do anything. It's pretty obvious. Giants worse in the NFC East, bottom 5 team in the NFL.
And imagine being one of their fans.
Garrett Willard.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be constantly on suicide watch. But, the Giants suck. Okay, Kenny Golladay has looked like the biggest joke of a receiver, maybe of all time in the preseason. I mean, if you could rank effort in the preseason, I understand it's the preseason, but if you hypothetically could rank effort amongst every player that's ever played in the preseason, Kenny Golladay has to be number 1 in terms of least effort given. So, I mean, I have no faith. This is negative faith. I mean, Saquon, I think, is going to come back and be good this year. I do think that as long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be good and productive, honestly. But overall, I mean, the team's awful. So, I mean, they don't have any. I mean, they lost Bradbury. They lost Logan Ryan. Okay, so their secondary is awful. Their defensive line is not that good. Their linebackers, I couldn't even name them. And then, obviously, their offense with Daniel Jones is just not that good. So, the Titans are going to win this game by a lot. And, that's that.
All right, and then for the final game for the 4:25 time slot, we have the Chiefs at the Cardinals. I have the Chiefs winning by a lot. Kyler Murray does not have DeAndre Hopkins on that offense for that Week 1 matchup. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have Tyreek Hill, still has Travis Kelce. That offense is still going to do good. I don't know why people are saying that their offense is not going to do good. Patrick Mahomes will make his receivers look good.
He will. Their offense, I don't think, will be as good but it'll still be good.
It will still be top
Still-
10 in the NFL,
yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah, and I mean, I think the Chiefs will beat the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals have had a very noisy offseason with their quarterback, and not really in a good way. I mean, first it was he was going to literally leave the team. I mean, you forget about this, but if you go back to like when the Pro Bowl was and stuff, I mean, you had like Mike Evans tweeting out like, "Oh, he's like should come to Tampa," and then he's like liking the tweet and retweeting it, like flirting with the idea. And then there was like some reports were saying he's like just confirmed leaving. And then he signs the contract after whining. You know, he's only played for 3 years and he already wants an extension. So after whining about his contract and, you know, being passive aggressive towards the organization about it, he then goes and signs the contract. And there's weird clauses in it that talk about film study hours, which were taken out, but it was just weird. I don't know if he loves the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the Chiefs are just going to win this game. I think that the Cardinals, it's going to be the same deal where they come off hot in the beginning and then they Cliff Kingsbury themselves out in week 6 and then become mid the rest of the year. But even with that being said, I still don't think they're going to look that good in week 1. Noisy offseason, questionable quarterback play and mental state, to be honest. So I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs.
All right. Moving into the Sunday night game, we have the Bucks at the Cowboys. As much as I hate to say it, I have the Bucks winning that game.
Thank you.
It's going to be a lot closer than people think. Everyone was doubting the Cowboys last year, saying it was going to be a blowout for the Bucks. Cowboys made it a 3-point game. Cowboys did give everything they could give that game, and they still came up short due to our special teams play with our kicker. I feel like it's going to be the same this year again. I feel like our special teams, more specifically our kicking, is going to let us down. We're going to try and do everything we can. We don't have Michael Gallup. We're going to fall up short. I think Bucks beat us by a touchdown, to be honest.
I agree with everything you just said, and I want to highlight something from last year. The Cowboys, the Bucks, in my opinion, here's his bias. The Bucks were beating themselves in the Cowboys game. I mean, we just did dumb stuff that would have kept you completely out of the game. I mean, you have a pass that hits Leonard Fournette in the hands, goes through his hands, bounces off his face mask, and then into your cornerback Trayvon Diggs' hands for his first pick of the year, first of many, I might add. But that was stupid. And then the next possession, I don't know if you have a lot of you guys, forget things, but I never forget Buccaneers turnovers. The next possession, we get I think a first down or two. And then we hand it off to Ronald Jones on 2nd and 1, and he fumbles instantly, Cowboys ball touchdown. So if you don't do two stupid things like that, then the game's not even really that close, to be completely honest. And it was not forced turnovers. It was, I mean, Leonard Fournette dropping the ball, and then Ronald Jones fumbles every 5 seconds anyway. So I mean, I'm pretty sure my grandma could have gone out there and looked at him and he would have fumbled. So I think that the Bucks are significantly better in terms of as a team than the Cowboys. The only thing I'm concerned about is how the secondary is going to look this year. I think it's going to be better because I think Logan Ryan is a better coverage corner than Jordan Whitehead was. Jordan Whitehead's a better tackler. Logan Ryan's a better cover safety.
Mm-hmm.
He also plays nickel a lot, so I think that's going to help, and he can maybe push Jamel Dean on the outside. I don't really know why they have Sean Murphy-Bunting starting as cornerback, too. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life, but I guess we'll see when the final roster comes out before the game. So I think the defense, I'm hoping, they looked fantastic in the preseason game last week, and it was against the Colts' entire starting offense besides Taylor, and they looked pretty good in that game. So I think that if the secondary can hold, I think we'll be fine. I'm not worried at all about the offensive line. At all. Not even I haven't even lost a singular second of sleep over the offensive line. I think the offensive line's fine. Robert Hainsey is going to be fine. Okay. Gadecki, the guard, I think is very questionable. Okay. But that's just one player. That's fine. Okay. One questionable guard who's going to have some boneheaded play every couple drives. Okay. That's fine. Okay. That's football. And then, we replaced Kappa with Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason's better than Kappa. So the offensive line's fine. Now, I don't know if they're going to play Chris Godwin week 1. In fact, I don't think they will. And I don't think they're going to play in week 2 against the Saints. I think he's going to make his debut in week 3 against the Packers from what I've been hearing. But I guess we never know. But still, the Bucks will have Mike Evans fully healthy, Julio Jones fully healthy, which should scare you to death. I think Russell Gage is going to play, even though he might be like a little hamstring issue, but I heard it's no big deal, so he should be fine. I think the Bucks will win by a touchdown, but the Cowboys will give them problems because I don't know. We're going to do something dumb in the game, and it's going to be at least twice. There's going to be 2 dumb occurrences that happen in the game, like last year, whether it's like a stupid fumble, a stupid whatever. The only thing actually that I'm really concerned about with the Bucks this year, besides the secondary, is Tom Brady's mental state of this season.
Hmm.
Well, is people are questioning, is he like committed to football because of like all this like 11-day suspension? I think he's committed to playing. I don't think he's regretting coming back. I think that's a little bit misrepresented, but I do think that with this whole potential Giselle divorce and the fight, she moved out of the house in Tampa. She moved out and she's living in I think Brazil for the summer, or Costa Rica. They have a house in Costa Rica and Brazil. So she's at one of the 2 places. And she's living with her sister, I believe, for the year, from what I've seen. How does that impact him? I don't know. I really don't know if that's going to be kind of bothering him. Like, okay, my wife just moved out of the house. I know it's like you're kind of personal there, but it's Brady. I feel like has never been in a situation in his personal life that was this kind of loud. So I don't know how he's going to handle it. Hopefully he just gets mad and then becomes like the greatest quarterback of all time on the field. But I could see it going the other way too, where it's like he's just not in it. So I'm a little concerned about that, to be honest. But he looked good in the preseason game. His arm still looks good. It's just mentally. I don't know if he'll be there, but I still think the Bucks will win this game by a touchdown, like you said.
Mm-hmm. And going back to what you said about last year's game, I feel like the Cowboys, like you said, they're only in the game because of the Bucks shooting themselves in the foot with those turnovers. But like, that's what the Cowboys were. They led the NFL in turnovers last year. Turnovers created. Like, they are a good team at forcing turnovers now. 2 years, 3 years ago, they were terrible at getting the ball back with interceptions and fumbles. But last year they led the league, which I think was super good. I want to go back. I want to go back again with with me saying that the kicker is going to be the problem for our team. I do have that up there still. I think our kickers are we have no like good kickers on our roster, huh?
Who's your kicker?
It's Brett Maher. We waived him, but we're signing him back because of like some IR stuff, kind of like what they did with Logan Ryan for the Bucks. But as of now, it's Brett Maher, who we had as a kicker like 2-3 years ago. This man, if it's 55 plus, he's nailing it anytime. But if it's anything under 40, he's like a 50% chance of making it or missing it.
Who was your kicker last year?
It was Greg Zuerlein.
Oh,
who is not on the roster anymore. Greg Zuerlein was asked to. He was not reliable.
Okay.
The thing that I actually think is going to be the biggest problem for the Cowboys is our offensive line. You were talking about your offensive line and how you feel confident in it. I am not confident in our line at all. Our line has regressed very hard. You have Tyron Smith, who completely tore his hamstring off the bone. Completely tore it. It was not on the bone when he tore it. That's the thing. Sometimes it's a partial tear. It was completely gone. He's not coming back. He should have retired 2 years ago, to be honest. And Tyler Smith, I don't know how he's going to do, to be honest. I feel like he's been playing all his reps as a guard because we were expecting Tyron Smith to be there. But now that Tyron Smith is not there, he's going back to left tackle, which he has not practiced at all yet.
He's your first pick, right?
Yes, he was our first pick. Should have picked Jermaine Johnson. We talked about that first episode. Kind of BS. So yeah, we have him there. Still have Zach Martin, but like we lost Lyle Collins. Everyone else is like they're big names, not really big names, but like people know the Cowboys' offensive line because that's like when you talk about offensive lines, everyone always thinks about Cowboys' offensive line is so good. Cowboys' offensive line is top 5. That is not the case anymore. We are not that good at the offensive line position. Bucks front 7 will be getting to Dak very easily. Dak will be running the whole time, I feel like. And without Michael Gallup there, you only have CeeDee Lamb. Zeke is a very good pass blocker running back, I will say,
Yes.
but I do not think he's going to be able to do enough in the pass blocking to give Dak enough time to get the ball out of his hands. That's the biggest problem I will say for the Cowboys is our offensive line right now.
Yeah, and you have to realize too, we don't have Jason Pierre-Paul this year, but I believe that Joe Tryon is going to have a breakout year. Personally, he
Mm-hmm.
was good in the little reps he had last year. He's going to obviously be starting full time this year. I think he's going to be good.
All right. Last game we have the Monday night game. We have the Broncos at the Seahawks. If you want to give your prediction for that, Will.
Broncos, hands down. The Seahawks are in that bottom five argument in terms of roster. I mean, you had Pete Carroll coming out the other week in his press conference, and he was like, "Yo, you know the saying when you have two quarterbacks, you don't really have one." Well, I think that we actually just have two really good quarterbacks. It's like, okay, well, you actually have two really good fourth string quarterbacks. I mean, how bad can Drew Lock be till he loses the job to Geno Smith? Apparently, he's that bad. Geno Smith is one of the worst quarterbacks of this decade, and he beat out Drew Lock. So the Seahawks are starting Geno Smith, and the Broncos have Russell Wilson. Okay, Russell's not going to be great in the first game. Brady wasn't great in the first game with the Bucks. But it's just a new team, new receivers, first game and everything. But I think he's going to be better than Geno Smith will be. I can guarantee you that. And the Broncos roster is so much better than the Seahawks. I mean, their defense is one of the best in the NFL, in my opinion. One of the best secondaries in the NFL. One of the best defensive lines in the NFL. And they have, the Broncos have good receivers, good running backs, good offensive line. The Broncos are going to win this game by a lot, in my opinion, by at least 14.
Yeah, the Broncos winning as well. Russell Wilson revenge game against the Seahawks. He is going to put up very good numbers on that Seahawks defense. I honestly have him going for over 350 yards and at least 3 touchdowns. To be honest, he is going to have a monster fantasy week this week.
Dang.
Monster fantasy week. Broncos country, let's ride. It's gonna happen week 1. They will start the season off 1-0. Yeah. Any other thoughts with any of the matchups you want to go back to at all?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Moving on to our second topic, which was the NFL rules that we've seen that we like and dislike. Um, Once again, before we start this, I want to say that if you want to have one of your topics talked about during this podcast, just comment and get people to like it. It was that simple. This topic had 1 like, and it was what we're talking about right now. It is very easy to get your topic on this podcast right now while I'm starting it up.
Were
So
you the one that liked it?
no, I didn't. I didn't like it. Someone else liked it. He may have liked it himself. To be honest, I don't know. But yeah, comment what you want to hear and get 2 of your friends to like it, and you like it yourself, and it will most likely be on the next episode if we're being honest. So yeah, first rule that I really liked was the extra point getting moved back a couple yards for kicking. I feel like it made it a lot more competitive of having a good kicker for the extra point. Like it used to be just a chip shot, which like soccer players could do. To be honest, like a lot of very low level kickers could make that kick consistently. But since they moved it back, I think it's like the 15-yard line or something. Like it makes it's still an easy kick, but it's not as easy. It takes a lot more skill, I feel like, to make those kicks consistently. And we've seen like top kickers like miss these extra points a lot. And I feel like it really is a good game changer, and I really like that rule change.
Yeah, I like that rule too. Actually, I hate that rule. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I've
okay.
lost multiple football games because of that rule. I mean, the Bucks, Aguayo. I mean, that was when they moved it back when Aguayo became the kicker, and then it was he couldn't make crap. He lost multiple games. Matt Gay lost multiple games. Patrick Murray lost multiple games. Who was that guy who was on the Patriots? Nick Folk lost multiple games because of missed extra points. So I actually hate that rule. It actually made me want to lose my mind multiple times and scream and rip my visor in half. But that's okay. I understand why it's more entertaining. However, it's the worst rule of all time. I think they should just honestly, I think they should just give you 7. Like you just score, and instead of 6, you just automatically get 7. That would solve the issue with the Bucks place kickers. Obviously I'm
Okay.
kidding, but uh, the rule that I've liked the most is I like when they change the kickoff to now if you let it be a touchback, you get it at the 25 instead of the 20. Because it really changed the analytics of how players should just kneel instead of running it out, which kind of prevented more head injuries. Which the Bucks have the this is another issue. The Bucks have the worst special teams coverage I've ever seen in the past decade. In fact, they did a rankings of who's been the worst consistently over the past like 5 or 6 years, and it's the Bucks in every category. It's the Bucks in kicking, it's the Bucks in punting, it's the Bucks in punt coverage, it's the Bucks in kick coverage, it's the Bucks in kick blocking, and we can't block anybody or return anything. But when it was at the 20, it was like we were just forced to take it out because it's like you might as well. Now it's at the 25. Now it's an automatic kneel, automatically at the 25. So I'm getting rewarded for bad special teams, and I like that. So I like that rule.
Okay. Another rule I like. It's kind of an old rule. I kind of looked up rule changes that happened in the NFL, and it's the 5 yard contact that defensive backs are able to do on wide receivers.
I was actually going to say that one, believe it or not. I was between that one and then the kickoff.
I really like that rule. Like being a cornerback is one of the hardest positions to play across
Yeah.
all major sports, in my opinion. There is so many like reads you have to go through, so many adjustments. You go against a different receiver almost every single play who's running a different route. And to be able to have that chance to make some kind of contact to throw the receiver off or just like get yourself positioned where you need to be, I really like
Yeah.
that you're able to do that. Any contact the defensive back used to put on the receiver was a penalty until like I think it was 1970 or around that time when they made the rule change to allow 5 yard contact. Um, so yeah, I really like that how the league is now that you're able to do 5 yard contact. It kind of reminds me of destroying. For anyone who watches destroying, he makes one-on-one videos. He goes to different parts of the country and lets like seniors in high school and like D1 prospects and stuff like that. They get to show off their one-on-one talents. And honestly, the best parts of the video is when the cornerback completely pushes the wide receiver back into the crowd to the ground. So like the fact that you're able to do that, I really like.
Yeah, I didn't look up old rules, so I like I like I like the pass interference rule because you shouldn't be able to tackle receivers on pass
I
plays.
honestly don't like that rule, to be honest.
You think you could? Okay, I mean you can argue about how it's enforced, but
Like
I mean
The Saints Rams
that,
game, like that was a
that
legal
was
play.
legal.
I feel
Yeah,
like it
there
was
was nothing.
legal.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with that play. I'll go to the grave. I mean, maybe they should have scored on their 3 red zone possessions in the first quarter. Didn't score on any of them. Maybe they could have scored in overtime. Didn't score in those. No excuse. Thank you.
All right. One more rule on my end. I actually don't like it. Is the new overtime rules. Um, it's only in the playoffs, which kind of defeats the purpose of overtime rules. I know it's different, kind of like in NHL, how you do the overtime and then you do the shootout, but in the playoffs, it's just straight overtime the whole time. I feel like with the NFL, it should just be consistent. I feel like you should have the same overtime rules for both the regular season and the playoffs. I don't really see a need to have a different
The
like.
NFL, the players union. The players union won't let them play. They have like a certain time that they have to stop playing. That's the NFLPA. They won't let their players play past a certain time.
Oh, I think that's BS. Then I feel like they should be able
Like
to.
in college, they don't have a players union. They can do whatever the hell they want to
I
do.
know.
But in
I really like college playoff
everyone
rules,
likes the college rules, but all
OT
the
rules.
stupid NFLPAs, we don't want them to play past like 10 minutes of the extra game time.
Yeah, I find it BS that like you have that for the regular season, but in the playoffs, like they're going to be able to let them play on for like goodness, however
It's
much
better than
longer.
nothing, though. It's
Huh?
better than just like, it's better
It's
than
better than
nothing.
nothing. Like it is progress, but like I don't know. I feel like I really like college OT rules, and like I feel like
Yeah,
if the
me
NFL
too.
did that, like That'd be
If
cool.
the NFL did the college overtime rules version of where like it's like by possession, they should definitely not get the ball at the 25. I feel like that is way
I do
too
agree with that. I feel like it should move it back to like even like half field because like NFL is
45.
more professional. Like I feel like they have to like showcase their
And
talents a lot more.
well, and like you remember in like the national championship with Alabama and Georgia, the not the one last year, the one in 2018. You know, Georgia kicked a field goal on their drive in the overtime, and then Alabama Tua got sacked like a 20-yard sack on the first play, and it kind of knocked him out of field goal range. They obviously they ended up throwing a touchdown the next play, but like for the NFL, like the kickers are a lot better than college. They can make it from anywhere on the field.
Yeah.
Like in college, when you get sacked on that first play and you're at a field goal range almost, so it's like questionable. In the NFL, you can get sacked like 3 times. You have the ball at the 25, and you're like all set by 50% of the kickers at least.
Yeah.
So you need to get the ball at the 50, in my opinion, and then maybe even a little bit farther back, like maybe like the 45, and then have the same rules. That's personally what I would do. I don't think you should just be automatically granted a field goal just by like existing in overtime. Um, so that's what I would do.
Okay.
Um,
That's all we have for.
wait, no.
Oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
no, it's not. Yeah, I was kind of just like adding on to like your rule change. I didn't go into like my
Okay.
rule
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. Go to yours. Go to yours.
Right. So the rule I hate the most is the whole landing on the quarterback rule is now roughing the passer in the NFL. So if you sack the quarterback, this just became a rule I think 2 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. If you sack the quarterback, you can't fall on him. Okay, and they're it's literally in the NFL amongst players. It's called the Aaron Rodgers rule because in 2018 or whatever, when uh, Anthony Barr, I believe, was the one that sacked Aaron Rodgers. He fell on Aaron Rodgers' collarbone and he broke his collarbone and it put Aaron Rodgers on the IR the rest of the season. So ever since that happened, the NFL like panicked that they're revenue generating quarterbacks are getting injured too much. So they said, okay, no body weight anymore. But it is so impossible if you're an athlete the caliber of the NFL defensive linemen, especially edge rushers, and even the big guys up front, you're supposed to run full speed. Make sure you can't hit the guy a second after he throws it. He has to be holding it. And then even if he's not holding it, it's like right after he releases it. So you're constantly like, okay. And then you can't lead with your head, or you can't do anything. And then all of a sudden you finally like do the other 30 things correctly that would otherwise lead to a roughing the passer. So you can finally say, hey, I got a sack, mom. And then you go on there. And even if he still has the ball, if you just land on him, now it's a penalty. Okay. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to like sack him. And then because you've seen it before, you've seen it where defensive linemen have a free shot and they hesitate because they're like, I don't know what the hell to do. I don't want to get a penalty for this. And then they choke, and then the quarterback gets out of the pocket, and there's a big play, and then nobody cares about the defense anymore. So I think it's a dumb rule. They need to fix it. You cannot control the body weight half the time. I mean, if I'm diving at a player, okay, I'm going to fall on top of the player. Okay, but the league's asking them to essentially dive on them and then like do a barrel roll mid-air so they don't fall on them. Like it's like Top Gun, and it doesn't make any sense. So I think that's the worst rule in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, that's all we have for this week's episode. Um, One thing I do want to go into real quick is how the Gators are one of the best teams in the nation right now. Absolutely upsetted the Utah football team. We're cracked. We're good. FSU is going to lose tonight against LSU.
Probably will.
Rank
I
UF,
actually have
rank the
standing
Gators.
that
Anthony Richardson is him. It's true.
debatable.
But yeah, back to the actual script of this episode. We're gonna see how our predictions end up. I'm gonna try and keep a tally of mine and Will's record throughout the year with our predictions. And in terms of next episode, we're actually gonna do a special episode. So you will be getting 2 episodes within the next 2 weeks. I will be in Tallahassee with Will for the Cowboys Bucks opening game.
Yeah.
And we're going to be making a special episode that week, specifically just talking about the Cowboys Bucks game and what we liked about our teams, what we didn't like about the teams, how the game actually went itself. So it would be specifically on that. The most liked comment on this video will be in the episode 2 weeks from now. So it will be 2 episodes from now when you'll actually hear that comment that got most liked. Um, yeah. Any other parting words that you have, Will?
Well, Tristan, it's going to be a rough weekend for you in Tallahassee, Florida, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers curb stomp the Cowboys and make you depressed. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm going to be in a very hostile territory right there. Lots of Bucks fans. All my friends are Bucks fans. I've been dealing with it for years. I will probably be the only Cowboys fan at our watch party. It's
Yeah,
gonna
actually,
be
this is a shock.
it's gonna be
Okay, we're
fun.
all from Tampa. Oh, all my friends are Bucks fans. It's so tough. I mean, how
It's
about you
tough.
just be a Bucks fan like the rest
It's
of
tough. It's
society?
worse for Lightning fans.
Yeah, bro.
All the girls love being Lightning fans, right? When they come playoff.
Now, I would be fine with it if they also like the Bucks just as much as they like their precious Lightning, but they don't. So I'm not fine with it.
Yep. Next day after a Lightning win, you just get to click through all the stories. Instagram feed's ruined for
I
10
mean, I
hours.
shouldn't say. I mean, there was a part of me that was just like, please can the Lightning lose so then I can chirp that the Bucks are better. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do.
Yep. Tampa Bay problems, people. Tampa Bay problems.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
so thank you for watching. Leave a like if you like the video. Comment what you want to see on the next video. Like I said, get 2 people to like it, and it's probably going to be up there. So yeah, I will see you next week for our special Cowboys Bucks episode. Thank you for watching, guys.